Mom Carole makes wise decision. So right away, you see that family element coming into play.
Right away.
And what's really interesting is that the article details Kate's battle with cancer, her family support system, and then thankfully her remission. So this is really kind of a journey.
A hopeful journey?
Yeah, a very hopeful journey. And, it's not very often we get to see this side of, royalty.
It humanizes them.
Yeah, behind this very public persona are real people.
Absolutely.
With real challenges.
Yeah.
So let's kind of unpack some of the details here. I can only imagine how difficult that must have been.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a grueling process, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah. And especially being in the public eye, that must add a whole other layer to it.
A whole other layer of stress, for sure.
And that's where the article really highlights the Middleton family, and specifically Kate's mom, Carole.
Huh.
Their home in Berkshire is described as like this sanctuary for her during this time.
A haven.
Yeah, and I love how they describe it, great avenues of oak trees and
Yeah.
a personal stream.
It's so idyllic. It's almost this deliberate contrast
Yeah.
to the pressures of royal life.
Totally. It's just this peaceful image. But with all the paparazzi that follow the royals everywhere,
Right.
was it really peaceful? Could there have been this underlying tension even with the family support?
Yeah, that's a great question. The article does really focus on the positive, in quotes, sources as describing the Middletons as very, very tight-knit, old-fashioned in their closeness. But you are right. There's no escaping the media. That constant attention could definitely add stress.
Imagine trying to recover with all those cameras constantly pointed at you.
Exactly. That just adds another layer to it.
It makes you question the level of privacy she was truly able to have.
Yeah. What was that piece really like?
Right. And what about the psychological impacts
Oh, absolutely.
of the illness
Yeah.
to treatment, and then on top of it, all this public pressure?
It's got to be a lot to process.
The article mentions Kate attending some royal engagements during her treatment,
Yes.
like tripping the color.
That's a big one.
Huge.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
She was battling cancer,
Right.
but still prioritizing those royal obligations.
Yeah.
It speaks to a real sense of duty.
Incredible willpower.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder what was going through her mind during those appearances.
Yeah.
Was it just duty? Was there pressure from, the institution?
Maybe.
Or was it maybe a way to maintain a sense of normalcy,
Possibly.
like in the middle of all this chaos?
That's fascinating to consider.
Yeah. Was it helpful?
Right. Did those appearances help or hinder her?
On one hand, they could have provided purpose and routine.
Structure.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the pressure, the scrutiny.
All that attention
Yeah.
to add to her stress.
Exactly. It's this complex interplay between public image and personal struggle.
It really is. And especially for someone in her position.
Yeah. We so often see the polished facade, but rarely do we glimpse the battles fought behind closed doors.
It's true. We get these curated glimpses into their lives.
Right.
But this gives us a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. A look at the human side of royalty.
Definitely.
Okay. So we've got this image of Kate finding refuge at her family home, this solace in their support, while also navigating this really challenging treatment and these public appearances.
Right.
But the article also mentions a video
Yes.
released by William and Kate.
That's something tangible.
Yeah. A piece of their lives that we can actually see,
Exactly. We can get some insight.
right, into their family dynamic and how
Yeah.
they support each other.
Yeah. And maybe even a glimpse into how all of this may have changed them.
Individually and as a couple.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder.
Yeah. And maybe it'll give us some clues as to how this experience might shape her outlook on life and her approach to royal duties moving forward.
Curious to see.
Me too.
Oh.
But we'll dive into that a little bit later.
It really is intriguing to think, how this whole experience might change things for her.
Yeah. Will she step back from royal duties?
That's a good question.
I wouldn't be surprised if she did. Imagine going through something as intense as cancer treatment.
Right.
It's got to shift your perspective.
Absolutely. It makes you think, what would you do if you were suddenly confronted with your own mortality?
Yeah.
Would you cling tighter to your existing commitments?
Yeah.
Would you reevaluate?
Wow. That's such a powerful question, and it really gets to the heart of this whole situation.
Right.
We have Kate living this incredibly public life, yet facing this deeply personal and private struggle.
Right.
It makes you question what really matters.
It does. And it makes me think about how we perceive these public figures. You know, especially royalty. We see them as these symbols, representatives of something larger than themselves.
Yeah.
But this story reminds us that they are human beings.
Just like us.
Just like us.
With the same vulnerabilities and fears.
Absolutely.
It's so easy to get caught up in the fairy tale.
The palaces, the tiaras.
Right. But they're dealing with real-life issues.
Real-life struggles.
Yeah, just like everyone else.
And maybe in some ways even more so.
Totally, because of that constant scrutiny.
Exactly.
Imagine trying to process a diagnosis like cancer with the whole world watching.
It's hard enough for anyone, let alone someone in her position.
And it's a lot.
It really highlights those pressures of public life.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile those with something so personal?
That's the question.
That's a health crisis.
The article does mention, the old-fashioned closeness of the Middleton family. But it does make me think about the royal family.
Oh, interesting.
Are they as supportive?
Right? Do they operate under different rules of engagement?
We often hear about, the formality and tradition associated with the royal family.
Yes.
How does that mesh with the need for, emotional openness?
Vulnerability.
Yeah, during a crisis like this.
Especially during a time when you need that support.
The article praises that strength of the Middleton family bond.
Yeah.
But is it possible that the royal family's more reserved approach
It's possible.
might have added another layer of complexity?
Definitely. It makes you think about those different dynamics.
Right, and the potential for, conflicting expectations and pressures.
Absolutely.
On one hand, she has her family urging her to rest and prioritize her health.
Right.
And on the other, maybe there's pressure from the institution.
To maintain that public image.
Right, fulfill her duties.
Yeah.
It must be so difficult to navigate that.
It's a tough balance for sure.
But where does William factor into all of this?
That's a good point. The article really focuses on Kate and Carole.
It does.
But he must have played a role
a crucial role.
in supporting her.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can only speculate about those private conversations.
Right.
But his presence had to be so important to her.
Yeah. Okay, so we've touched on those unique challenges Kate faced.
Yeah.
Both from the public eye
Right.
and potentially within the royal family itself.
Yeah.
But let's circle back to that video you mentioned earlier.
Yes. The one released by William and Kate.
Do you think that might offer some insights into their relationship
Potentially.
and how they coped as a couple?
I think it's worth revisiting with this new perspective in mind.
Yeah.
We might pick up on things we didn't notice before.
Like what?
Little cues, maybe. Glimpses of their strength,
Uh-huh.
their resilience as a couple.
And maybe even how this experience has changed them,
It's possible.
both individually and as a unit. Do you think they'll use their platform to advocate for, cancer awareness or support for families going through similar challenges?
That's an interesting thought. We know they're already involved in some charities,
They are.
but maybe this experience will shift their focus
Yeah.
to health and well-being.
And how about their approach to royal duties moving forward?
Yeah,
I mean, will they stick to the traditional obligations?
right.
Or will they seek a more balanced approach
Yeah.
that allows for more personal space and time with family?
I guess time will tell how this will shape their path.
Yeah.
But one thing is for sure,
Okay.
they've faced this with remarkable grace and strength.
They have.
And their story is really an inspiration.
I completely agree. It's a powerful reminder that even those who seem to have it all still face these very human challenges.
It is.
And it's a testament to the power of love, family, and resilience.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is incredible how they've handled this whole thing with grace,
Yeah.
under such intense pressure.
Right. Public life.
Yeah. It makes you think, how often do we put these public figures up on a pedestal?
All the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And we kind of forget that they're also dealing with their own private struggles.
It's easy to do. We see the photo shoots, the outfits.
Right.
And forget there's a person behind it all.
Right. Someone with the same anxieties and uncertainties that we all face.
Exactly.
And this story, really brings that home.
It does.
I think it strips away that facade.
It humanizes them.
Yeah. It reveals this raw human experience that we can all relate to, I think.
Absolutely. Whether it's health, family, any personal challenge.
Yeah. We've all faced things that make us, question our priorities and reevaluate what's important.
It's true. And that's what makes this so compelling.
Right.
It's not just about Kate.
Yeah.
It's about facing adversity and finding strength in unexpected places.
And it makes you think, what about my own support system?
Right. Who would you turn to?
Yeah. What values guide me? When things get tough.
It's like a mirror,
Yeah.
right? Reflecting back on us. Our own vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And reminding us that we're not alone.
We all need those anchors, I think, in our lives.
Absolutely.
Those people, those principles that ground us when things feel out of control.
It's not just about having people to lean on, though.
Right.
It's also about the strength we find within ourselves.
Yeah, that resilience.
Exactly. And Kate's story is a great example of that.
She could have easily retreated from public life.
Right.
Just focused on her recovery.
Right.
But she didn't. She kept going.
It takes a certain kind of grit.
It does. Where does that strength come from?
Right. Is it innate or is it learned?
That's a great question. Nature versus nurture.
Right.
But regardless, I think it's inspiring to see.
Absolutely. To see her come out stronger on the other side.
It leaves us with this question, though. How will this shape her path moving forward?
Right. Will she advocate more for health issues?
Yeah. Will she prioritize family time?
Or maybe she'll blend it all together.
Right.
Forge a new path for herself and maybe even for the monarchy.
Yeah, it's like we're at this crossroads.
It's a pivotal moment.
It is. And, while we can't predict the future, I think we can appreciate her journey.
Absolutely. And the lessons we can learn from it.
So well said. I think as we wrap up this deep dive, we've learned a lot more than just the details of this one news story. We've touched on resilience, family public image, and the very human experience of facing adversity.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And I think, most importantly, we've been reminded of that power of human connection.
For sure.
And the strength that we can find not only in ourselves,
but in each other.
Yeah. So as you all go about your day, consider this. What are the anchors in your life?
What grounds you? What gives you strength?
Yeah. And how can you cultivate that resilience, that ability to face challenges head on and come out stronger on the other side?
It's something to think about for sure.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those connections strong.